I noticed there's something interesting that they do, and it's something that's a technique they did back in China, and I think this actually deserves some attention. So if you looked in China, right, we're back in the 90s, right, and you looked at state-run media, which of course is the government voice, right, they literally would talk about Falun Gong like it is great because it improves health. It is great because it uplifts social ethics and what they call sort of societal rectitude.
This is the Chinese government saying
this. This is the Chinese government praising Falun Gong for its health benefits, and not just health benefits, but talking about its moral virtue, so its ability to sort of bring people back on the straight and narrow and live wholesome, dignified lives. And they say this very explicitly. So in '99, when they decided too many Falun Gong people, we've got to go persecute Falun Gong, we've got to stamp them out and suppress it, they just turn all those strengths on its head. So instead of being great for social order, the Chinese regime would come out and literally say they're disrupting social order. Instead of being great for health benefits, they're saying, oh, they don't take any medicine and they're all dying or languishing as sick. Instead of saying, oh, they're great for the ethics of society, and the fabric of the family and the community, which are things they've said, they say, oh, it's a cult. Yeah. So they take all the strengths and they turn it on its head, and that's how they go after it. Yeah. That's exactly what these influencers that are backed by the Ministry of Public Security are now doing to Shen Yun. So you look at what Shen Yun is, right? It is just from the experience of like the performers, the artists, and I can say this from just watching my two sons who went through the Fei Tian school system and tour with Shen Yun now. It is the most remarkable environment for a young person today that I've ever heard of or seen, in terms of the ability to instill discipline and focus and a sense of purpose in young people, and yet do it in an environment where there's this wonderful kind of band of brothers kind of attitude among classmates and people who are on tour together. I mean, it's the most incredible thing. And I remember being very worried about this about my boys. I mean, at one point we took a tour all throughout the Northeast looking for schools because I wanted to find the perfect place where he could really get a great education and learn good life tools, and that's exactly what these kids are getting in some of these young performers. And when they graduate and they move on to Shen Yun, the life they're leading is amazing. And so what are these YouTubers doing? They're turning that on its head. They're saying, oh, these are young people that are being abused, or they're being forced to perform with injuries, or they're living in a cultish environment. They're not allowed to access the internet or the outside world. They're turning that on their head. It's the exact same technique we saw in China. And so, and like with Falun Gong, back in the 90s and after the persecution started, Shen Yun, people know it as a performing arts company, but they don't necessarily know what the company is and where its headquarters is. And so into that void, some of these influencers are now being able to put this propaganda and having it stick. And some of the mainstream media are starting to pick up on it. And so this is a real battleground now, much like we had with Falun Gong after the persecution started, to make sure people understand what Shen Yun really is about, because the communist regime is coming for them, and they're going to focus in not only to reverse the strengths, but they're going to focus in on propaganda points that could cause legal trouble or inspire the interest of the U.S. government. Because, I mean, look, if you accuse someone of child abuse, immediately everybody sits up, right? That's something that's going to get your attention. The Chinese regime knows that. So they're dialing in on these things. They're taking the strengths of Shen Yun, and they're picking the ones that, these are the best and most effective for attracting legal attention. And this is a very, very deliberate strategy. And they're going after this essentially to try and get Shen Yun shut down. I mean, they won't succeed, but that's the mindset. And that's why this report, this latest one we just did, I think is so important, because we're at that critical stage where people don't really know what the company's like and what it's like to work there. And the Ministry of Public Security is clearly in full court press mode. Yeah. And so we got to stay ahead of that.
Yeah.